All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Cruz with the Let's and Cruz Group here at Keller Williams in Cupertino. And as we do every Thursday night, we're going to share with you some of our insights and some of the things that we see happening here in Silicon Valley real estate. Hopefully, as you listen in, whether it's live, via Zoom, or a recording of this presentation, will help share with you how we look at the market, how we look at what's going on, what impacts things like interest rates and buyer and seller sentiment is doing to the market in the short term. So if you're thinking of buying or selling in our area in Silicon Valley, the greater Santa Clara County area, we'll help you with some of the insights, help you with understanding what are some of the dynamics that we're facing right now and in the near future. So you can use that to make the most valued and important decisions you'll make around real estate wants and needs. So if you're on Zoom and you have a question, please raise your hand virtually. And if I don't catch you in real time, at least type your question, because then we can always get back to it. I'll try to follow through and see what's going on. Of course, anyone else that has a question. If you watch this in the future through a recording and we raise some issues, raise some questions that you might have, please feel free to reach out to us, especially if one of our agents invited you. Reach out to them. They can answer the questions. If you would like a more detailed one-on-one presentation on your particular situation, where your home is located or where the home you'd like to purchase is located, we're happy to do that. It takes 20 minutes. We'll tailor it specifically to you and your needs and wants, and we think it'll be very valuable for you. So I'm going to be covering the Santa Clara County as a whole. So when I'm talking about any issue or any movement in the market, it's that entire market. And I'm only referencing single family homes. So many people obviously are in the market to buy or sell townhomes, condos, but the design of this evening's presentation is to give you an insight, and again, into how we look at the numbers, how we help you understand what you need or want. So whether it's a different type of house, condo, townhome versus single family residence, it's in a different specific community, a neighborhood in a community, different price points, everything you'll hear tonight, it can be tailored down to that specific area. So again, please feel free to ask questions as we go along tonight, or follow up with us and ask there. So let's jump right in and make sure this thing is working. Of course, it is not. It was working a little earlier. Not able to scroll up or down. That's the problem. All right. I'm going to stop this share real quick. Maybe it got hung up. I'm going to try to restart it. There you go. It worked. All right. So let's start with, again, I always like to start big picture view, what's going on nationally, regionally. And the reason I do that is because, generally speaking, until you're actually talking to a realtor specifically, that's where you get your news. When you're getting your news online, from the television or any other source like that, they're talking about what's going on nationally. And so I'll explain to you why it's important to drill down to the very core of where you are. But all of that's in the context of what others are reading, others are understanding, and that's going to help you kind of distill information that's specific to you and your wants and needs. So this is one of the sources that I really, really enjoy reading. It's a website called calculatedrisk.com by Bill McBride. They have a ton of information around other areas of our economy, but there's always a really good source for real estate information. I've been following and reading Bill's website religiously since 2007 and 8, when the market was in turmoil. We were crashing, prices were going crazy down, and it was always a great source then. And it has been a great source since, no matter what the market was doing. So it's a great resource for you too. But as you can see, it starts off, the headline is current overview for mid-February. Obviously, we're in February 16th today, and I'm going to show you a little trick that you need to understand when you're reading real estate online or anywhere else. It's a mid-February outlook, but the first sentence says, here's a graph of new listings from Realtor.com's January housing trends. So immediately, it's a mid-February report, but immediately it's going to take you to what happened in January. You're going to find the way our markets move today, that's only 30 days ago, but an incredible amount happens in 30 days. 1, 2, 3, 5% movements can happen. And in our price points here in Silicon Valley, a 1 or 2 or 3 or 5% movement in a market in 30 days is $50, $20, $30,000. That's incredibly important if you're trying to maximize what you can get for your house when you sell it, or saving that amount when you're trying to buy. So what does it say? Report is showing new listings were down about 5% year over year in January. Again, this is nationwide. Although new listings are a record low for January, the year over year decline was smaller than in January than in Q4 2022. Now, we start here because we're talking about new listings, and it's something that's very, very important. Overall, when you're hearing about inventory, nationally, regionally, or even locally, you're going to hear continuously that inventory is rising. The number of homes at any given point, any given day in the market is higher than it was at the same point last year. Typically, when you see inventory rising, that is a downward pressure on prices. There's more to look at. There's more on the market. There's more available for buyers to choose from. Again, that is typically a downward pressure on prices. Great news for buyers. Buyers are loving this kind of information because it points to finally some relief on the price pressures we've been facing in Silicon Valley for over a decade now, and acutely the last 15 to 20 months. So why do I point it out? Because the majority of houses that are selling right now are the newest to the market at any given week, any given time. And in that really important sector of our market, the new listings are lower. How can both be true? New listings are way down, new inventory is way down, while active inventory is up. Well, that's because of the way we measure these things. You measure a new listing once, it's new once. If it goes on the market on January 1st, it's a new listing in January. It doesn't show up as a new listing in February. Now, if it does not sell in January, then it shows up as an active listing in January, and then it'll show up as active listing in February. So it's recorded twice. So when they don't sell as fast as they were last year, when they were selling in 8, 9, 10, 12 days, you'll get this seemingly two different data points, one showing inventory is larger, while new inventory is lower. That'll become more important in a second while I explain how fast our markets are moving, but a great place to start. As you're starting your search to buy homes, there are more to choose from, but mind you, that's because the buyers before you passed over many that are in the market right now. And for the last several years, with competition so heated for real estate in Silicon Valley, the consumer has consistently chosen the ready turnkey property to buy. That is continuing, and it's creating a kind of bifurcation in the market where some are lasting much longer and some are going just as fast as they did a year ago. Okay, again, very important to consider as we move forward. Here again, impact on active inventory. The following graph shows the seasonal pattern for active single-family inventory since 2015. The red line is for 2023. The black line is for 2019. There's an important reason why they're bringing up 2019. Obviously, we had a major catastrophic event in 2020 with COVID-19. It disrupted lives, it disrupted patterns, and that's included in real estate. So when we're comparing active inventory, it's helpful to look at, of course, compared to the previous year, 2021, 2020, but also when was the last normal year in terms of levels of inventory. So you see down here, inventory right now, again, nationally is up 78% year over year. Again, more choice. That should be music to your ears if you're a buyer. More choice should mean lower prices. But you see how much lower it is in 2019. So we remain in a very low inventory environment. And so when we look at historical norms, then that starts to put pressure on prices upward. So we start distilling this information, looking at different ways to measure, but really bring it home to what is it that you're looking for, what is it that you're considering, and how is the current market data going to affect your choices. So inventory historically low still. You will read and you will hear 30, 40, 50% below last year. I'm sorry, above last year in some cases. That both can be true. So please don't confuse it. Don't think you're getting bad information from one source or another. They're just measuring two different things. When you're thinking of buying or selling, the thing that's going to impact price the most is the most recent number. Always remember that. They're all important, but the final decision on pricing in the market is going to be the most recent numbers. So then the next thing is 30-year mortgage rates. They have declined from their October highs when they were pushing 7%. And we've gotten over that shock of going from 3% or about to 7% from around April to July, August, September of last year. What happened when those rates went that high? It was a shock to the market, right? I put this in here. When we were in that period of almost 3% or certainly below 4% of interest rates, real estate was easy. Now, what do I mean by real estate was easy? The prices certainly lower than they were today. Interest rates historically low, the lowest we've seen in decades. And so for those that were interested, either they had to buy or they simply wanted to buy into an appreciating market, it was easy or a lot easier, I should say, to go and get financing at very, very, very low rates, which made investing in real estate, even at ever higher prices, a really good long-term bet. And we saw that. That market that we just left, I would say from about 2017 to 2022, the first part of 22, was almost completely driven by demand. The demand side of the curve is what was driving all of the activity and pushing the prices higher and higher and higher. When money was that cheap to get from your lender partners, then it didn't matter if it was another 50,000, another 100,000, another 200,000. It was still cheap money. Go borrow it and buy an appreciating asset. It's good, sound financial decisions. And we saw that. That's what I mean by real estate was easy, right? Now, when the interest rates jumped back up over 6 and close to 7, all of a sudden real estate was hard. And it was hard because the prices were sticky in their high points. And the interest rates had almost doubled. And that means your mortgage payment, your monthly mortgage payment doubled. And now all of a sudden, it wasn't such an easy choice to say, I'm going to buy a house. Even if you had to, even if your life situation meant you had to buy a house, you had to think twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times about biting the bullet and paying those interest rates at those prices. The decisions, the choices became a lot harder. Not surprisingly, the volume and number of homes sold cratered. We dropped in those periods and still remain today 30 or 40% below what we did the previous 12 months, the previous year relative to that time period, whatever you're talking about. That's still there today. We're still way below in activity where we were 12 months ago. So that's where we've been. And it's important to understand where we've been, of course. But the real question when you're talking to someone about buying or selling real estate is what's next. Fair enough? Right? We can't get you those prices. We can't get you those interest rates. They're gone. But how we got there in those times helps illustrate what's going to be next, right? And that's what we'll focus on in the next few slides, in the next 15 or 20 minutes. So, big picture, this is market overview. This is the Case-Shiller Home Price Index going back to 1976. So it's very clear, while it's not a straight ride up, over time, you've heard this many times, real estate goes up. Real estate always goes up. That's true until it's not true, right? Right? When we were saying from 1991 to 2005, real estate only goes up, they go, yeah, I can see that. right? What happened in 06 and 07? It didn't only go up, it went down, right? So when you go and distill down into shorter time periods, that old dictum that real estate always appreciates in value is no longer 100%. But when you're thinking over time, I'm talking 7, 8, 9, 10-year periods plus, it is held true. That's important because the average time homeowners stay in the house that they purchase now is pushing 11 years. So you can't find an 11-year period anywhere on this chart where the price of real estate was lower 11 years past the point of origin in purchasing it. Let's start there. Again, obviously, you're making decisions on the now. If you're in the market to buy today, well, then you know over the next 11 years plus, it'll go up in value. But what about the next year, the next 2 years, the next 5 years? Even more importantly, what about the next couple of months? Could you wait and save money by buying in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, or a year? Are you going to miss the boat again, right? That's really what people are asking us when they talk to a professional real estate agent, one that consults them on these simple questions, but very important questions. And that's what we always like to share with you. So 3 main things that help you understand our local markets. The last 2 you've heard, supply and demand. It's a very simple concept. How many properties are available for sale? How many people want to buy them? When those 2 things become imbalanced one way or the other, prices go up or prices go down. If there's not a lot to buy and a lot of people want to buy them, the prices are going to skyrocket. That's what we experienced from 2017 through the beginning of 2022. When there's a ton of homes for sale and not enough people to buy them, the prices fall. That's what happened in 06, 07, 08, all the way down to 2012 when we stabilized and started this last decade plus rise in prices. The first one, speed of the market, isn't often talked about. And for me, having been a broker here in this valley for 20 years and looking at the data, looking at the markets every single week, looking at every major city, zip code in the Silicon Valley area, I've learned to look at these numbers and always find out how fast is it moving? How fast are people out there looking at making decisions, writing offers? The faster it moves, the higher the prices go, the more competitive the market becomes, and the faster consumers have to make decisions. The opposite is true for sellers. If the market is moving at a fast pace, you're more likely to get multiple offers. You're more likely to get higher record prices versus periods when it might be a little slower. Now, traditionally, we measure real estate in years. You always hear year over year. We measure in quarters, we measure it in months. And that's always been the case. But what happens when average days on market always stays below 30 days? And properties that go into contract rarely fall out. That means once they're in contract, 70, 80+% chance that they're going to close. What that means is our market of properties, if you imagine an aisle in your grocery store, whatever product, the bread aisle, imagine that those things were gone every hour, right? And you needed bread. You had to get there right at the right time, or else the bread was all going to be gone. This is what happens in our markets when our market moves this fast. And I'm going to show you how fast it's moving, right? This is a CoreLogic aggregator of data throughout the country. And this is a very helpful chart as you're starting to think about buying or selling real estate. And it simply states, as month supply shrinks on this chart from 10 months to 1 month, the pressure on prices goes up. So you can see on the far left, upper left, where you see San Jose, San Francisco, Seattle, this means over time, we have seen as the month supply of inventory stay at 2 months or less, 1 month or less, we've always stayed in that positive pressure on prices upward. And you see other cities across the country that don't have our limited supply. They have way more homes to choose from and purchase. That pressure can be mitigated on prices. Again, I mentioned For the last 5 years plus, we've been consistently under 30 days. That's not even on the chart here. It ends at 1 month or less. What about 20 days or less? 2021, 2022, especially in our prime markets like Sunnyvale, Cupertino, those days were 9, 12 days on market. You had entire cycles 2 or 3 times in some markets. Inventory completely turned over. And so you can imagine if less than 2 months is 4% pressure on prices, what is 9 days? That's where we saw offers going 15, 20% over asking price last year, right? So this is a good baseline to understand what that pressure does. And we're consistently there. In January of this year, we're at 37 days on market of supply. Still firmly in that positive pressure upward on prices. Very important to understand. As we started to talk about, a lot of the information you read and hear from a national level is talking about pressure on prices downward. We've not yet experienced that here. Not in the way that most information is coming to you. And that's because the information isn't week over week. It's not what happened the last 3 weeks. It's what happened in January, so we can report it as mid-February. Or what happened in August, September, October, so we can report it for first quarter. That's how most real estate information is distilled to you. You need more relevant, more recent information to make the really important decisions. That's the speed of the market. You'll hear us use that term at the Lutz and Cruz group because it's an important factor in helping you decide what am I going to do and when am I going to do it, right? So let's go back to the traditional demand. What's that? Oh, someone's trying to get in? Oh, I missed them. Sorry. So we measure demand, not backward looking. We do understand who purchased in November, who purchased in December and January to see what's that trend like. But you're asking what's going to happen next. So how do we look at demand in the future? We look at purchase applications. The vast majority of people still use financing to buy their homes. And we know how they act. They decide at some point, we're going to buy a home. So most of them go in and talk to a lender and say, I'd like to apply for a mortgage to buy a house. From the point that they go in to apply for their mortgage, we know that in the next 60 to 90 days, they're going to start making offers on houses. So whenever you want to look and measure demand, you look at the purchase applications. If it's up, you know demand will rise in the next 3 months. If they're down, you know demand will fall in the next 3 months. You can see on the chart here, since the heights of 21, that curve has been falling steadily. That's a result of rising interest rates. The higher the interest rate went, the less people wanted to apply for a mortgage. And it eventually showed up in offers, in closings, and the speed of the market. Fewer people competing, homes started lasting longer on the market. Around November 9th, the purchase applications started to rise week over week. They still show as very poor year over year. But again, that takes time to distill a whole year's worth of movement. But week over week since November 9th, now we're what? That's 3 months into that cycle. They've been steadily rising. We're not getting overwhelmed. There's not like a mad rush to the bank to apply for a 6% mortgage, but it is rising. And so we've known for several months that the demand would eventually show up at the homeowner's open house in the form of offers and in the form of more competition. So we can see that we track it every week, every month to identify what will the demand look like going forward. Whether you're on the buy side or the sell side, that's going to be important. That will do more to dictate what will happen to prices than what happened the last 12 months. Again, it's the recency. Who's looking today? If I put my house on the market today, it can be true that demand has been weak for 9 months. But what if last week it shot up? All I need is 2 people to want it at the same time. And now we have multiple offers. And all we need when that happens, that second or third or fourth person that lost last week, and they know they have to offer more on the next one, it starts to create that urgency, that speed in the movement of the market that we've experienced in the past. This is very important to witness and understand. Oh no. I think when I click on the upper bar, it stops. I'm gonna have to do this again, unfortunately. Bear with me for a second. And again, you can see on a larger scale, the recent drop since last June, and the very far right, you can see that jump up in applications. We knew in November and December, we would have a very active January and February, and we've seen it. Here's the thing, they're still rising week over week. So the movement upward in prices based on demand in the market should maintain for the next 60 to 90 days because of these readings. How about supply? We've talked about that briefly, right? Overall, while there is more supply in the market than there was 12 months ago, the number of new listings entry is lower. But because we had a slow fourth quarter, the overall number is rising. So what are you looking at when you go shopping for a house? You've got the brand new that everybody wants, and then you've got the passed over from the last 2 or 3 weeks that are still there. There's value in that. So don't discount it that a house has been sitting for a few weeks. That's where potential really good value is hiding. Ask one of our agents about that if you're interested in discovering what that really means. Over time, since 2007 or so, we have consistently seen inventory, number of homes available for sale at any time, dramatically drop. What does this mean for the long term? As long as we don't see inventory rise to the levels that we saw there, or even close to that, the pressure over time on prices upwards shall remain. That's very important to understand when you're in this market. So let's look at some specific numbers. This is Santa Clara County as of yesterday, the 15th of February. And this is single family only. And I want to show you a very simple metric that we use to judge what's the state of our market here, not the country, not California, here in Santa Clara County. And you'll see there's a blue line and a red line. The blue line is the number of new listings, fresh new listings. Again, we know the consumer prefers the newer, fresher listing. That's what they'll look at first in the market. When the market's moving this fast, you always have to stay on top of that. The red line is the number of homes that go pending. That means somebody saw that house, somebody made an offer, and they've agreed with the seller to buy it at a certain price. It has not yet closed, so it won't show up as a transaction for another 30 to 60 days. That's important. We want to know what's going to happen next, right? When you see this red line higher than the blue line, that means the buyers are super active and taking everything off the market quickly. Again, a dramatic increase in prices, which with hindsight, we know happened in 2021 and early 2022. As that red line starts to diverge from the new listings, that clearly shows buyers like, wait a minute, let's take some time here. Let's slow down. These interest rates are high. The prices are high. Let's take a look and slow our process down. That puts pressure on prices downward. It's very clear. What happened in November? That red line surpassed the blue line. And our selling season started in November. Buyers went out in force in November, December, January. And most people are going to wait till February ends so they can report March and tell you then that, hey, February was really hot. We can tell you now. In fact, we could have told you in January. And so when we remain in these 30-day cycles or less of real estate decisions, it's incredibly important to know what's going to happen in the next 30 days. That's an incredibly important tool. Again, this is for all of Santa Clara County. We can look by city, by zip code, by price point to really drill down. Where are you thinking of buying or selling? What's going to happen there the next 30 to 60 days? At least a direction. Now, you see below, we also measure every day, right? So the first 15 days of February, you can see the number of pendants at 241. The number of new lists is at 274. Not quite surpassing, but again, tightening that red and blue line. That tells you immediately the next 20, 30 days, there's going to be a lot of competition for any available property. So if you're thinking of buying, this doesn't mean that'll force you to buy faster, but it should help you understand what's the market I'm facing, not what the news says, not what you hear on Good Morning America or on your favorite website or any other source. That's national and that's backward looking. If you're going to put down $1.5, $2.5 million on a property, do you want to know what happened 6 months ago, or do you want to know what's going to happen when you're actually competing with other buyers? And should you go higher? Should you go lower? That's really what you want to know. You have to drill down this far to really understand that. So it's difficult for me. I know what the national news are saying. And they're saying the opposite of what I'm just telling you. But I tell people, I believe the numbers, not people. Why? Because the numbers are what you actually put on a piece of paper saying, I will buy this house for this much. And the seller agrees or disagrees. And that's what will establish the price. And right now, current conditions locally, that's getting pushed up. Here's another thing that we look at, absorption rate based on pended sales. It's a forward-looking number. It tells you what properties, how fast the properties that are available or sell are going to contract to purchase, a forward-looking number. On the chart here, you see these 3 triple-digit numbers. Anything above 30% is a seller's market. Hindsight again, well, sure, we know in late 2021, early 2022, the absorption rate above 200%, 300%, houses were selling in 3 or 4 days, 9 days in some areas, going 10, 15, 20% over asking price. That's understanding backward facing. But look where we are now. It doesn't look very active when compared to the first part of 2022 and to 2021. But historically, that's a great number. We're in the 60s, we're in the 70s. That's twice the level of what we consider a seller's market. We're still deeply entrenched in the seller's market. Don't confuse what happened 12 months ago with what's going to happen in the next 30 days. Pressure on prices upward remains. Now, what about the last 15 days of February? 104%. 104% absorption rate. That won't be reported until March. If you're going out this weekend to buy a house, you can't wait till March for them to tell you what happened when you're making offers. You have to know ahead of time, what do I need to do to win, right? Potentially, if the seller doesn't understand this, that could be of value to you, would it not? If you know, I know what's going to happen next because you spoke to us, and the seller is reading national news that says prices are dropping, that's a competitive advantage. That's what we want to create and bring to you, right? These are big numbers. Anytime you see this kind of change in such a short period of time, again, it speaks to that speed of the market. And how do we measure that? Days on market. So this is where it starts to become a little more complicated, because you will see days on market in December 22 was 32 days. It jumped to 37 days in January, and it's up to 51 days in the first 15 days of February. That seems to indicate prices should be pressured downward. Remember, that's a lagging number. The other thing that we measure here is sales price to original list price ratio. For every dollar listed, what do the sellers accept? You can see in December was 94%, and that stayed in January, 94%. They asked for $1 million, they got 940,000, right? Look at the first 15 days of February, it shot up to 97. It's still not up to 100. It's certainly not 105, 110 like it was 12 months ago. But you see how fast it switched? 4% more expensive in this measurement than 15 days ago. 4% when the median price is above 1.5 million is $50,000, $60,000, right? And we know that the next house to list is going to compare themselves to the one that just sold. and they're going to see that it's an appreciating market. So where will they list? They'll list higher than the last one. And then because the demand shows that we have increased demand, they're likely to get it. So this is a lot to take in. This is not designed for you to memorize it and understand it. It's simply to show you the level of detail we go to as professionals to help you understand the market. It's valuable if you're thinking of selling. It's certainly valuable if you're thinking of buying. We do everything else that traditional realtors do. We'll talk about how to stage your home. We'll talk about what upgrades to make to bring greater value. For me, 5-10 years ago, that was cutting edge in real estate, right? When you could go in and consult and say, change this, change that. We're going to provide staging. We're going to provide Matterport, super nice videos. We're going to create drone shots. That was cutting edge. Now everybody has that. There's no added incentive for a seller to pick just on that, or a buyer. All the videos are awesome. They all look good, right? What we do is that, because now that's a minimum standard. And now we're like, we analyze the numbers. We go deep to really understand, how do we help you make or save an extra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%? It doesn't sound like a lot. But again, 1 to 2 to 5% of 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, that's a lot of money. And you only transact once. If you miss it, it's gone. And that's what we want to impress upon you tonight. Again, if you're online or watching this, and then we do it every Thursday. Why? Because the market moves so fast. If you first talked to us 15 days ago, most of the nicest brand new properties that went on the market then are already sold. And the ones that will go on the market this weekend, the nicest ones, the turnkey ones, within 2 weeks, they'll be gone. So it's not designed to pressure you into moving fast, but it is designed to educate you, and you have to start thinking fast. You still are going to make decisions on your own timeline. You're still going to make decisions when you're ready. But we owe it to you to really help you understand how the market moves. The market does not have any compunction of moving faster than you or we want to. It will leave us behind. Now, it should be a conscious decision on your part of how fast you move. But it shouldn't be based on a misunderstanding of our markets move like glaciers. They do not. They move very quickly, within weeks, within days. And when you sit down and start looking at this, we're convinced you'll be able to make smarter decisions, better decisions, make more money, save more money, and set yourself up for the long term. So I'll finish with that. If someone invited you tonight and you have more questions, I'll be honest with you, I'll be transparent. This is designed to raise more questions because this is how complicated it can be. But we're equipped and we're ready to help you navigate these numbers, navigate this movement in the market, to help and go above and beyond what most realtors can do to help you make these decisions. So I thank you for your attention this evening. If you're watching this and you have some questions and you need to sit down and really talk about your wants, your needs, can we drill this down to your neighborhoods? Absolutely, 100%. We'd love to sit with you. Whoever invited you, they can invite you and I'll join in and I'll walk you through these numbers and help you understand what is it that you need to understand to make really important decisions. So thank you, everybody, and good night.